Now for the dark L, dun, 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 this one is interesting. And by interesting, I mean it can be a little bit challenging. Although I will say, if you're a Russian speaker, you're really good with the dark L's. In fact, whereas other cultures will use a light L for everything, I find that Russian speakers and there are a few other languages, it's the opposite. You use the dark L for everything. So this is where you want to take into consideration what is your background, what do you tend to do in your language, and that'll help you understand where to target more of your practice. Now, for the dark L, this is technically the symbol, but again, you'll only find this with people who are writing blogs about linguistics. When you do the transcription, as you see on the side there, it's going to look like the same L. So unfortunately, you won't be able to get that clarity as easily. But now that I'll teach you today what the sound is and where it is, if you go to Youglish, if you look up the pronunciation, you'll hopefully be able to hear the distinction a little bit better and then optimize your practice. So here, if I were to say this with a light L, call, call. Instead, it's call. So the first thing we want to work on is the A is not an A sound. So it's not ah, but all. And for that particular sound, especially because I know it's going to blend into the dark L, you're going to feel it more in your throat. All, all, call, call. Now, what you don't see in here, because it's just too dark, the tongue is kind of going into there's a little bit of tension here. And so to me, it feels like your tongue is kind of turning into a little bit of a bowl. Oh, oh, call. So even though my tongue is in the same placement, la, 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 the tension's back here, so it changes the sound. A way that you can activate this, and this might feel kind of silly, but be careful as well. Push right here a little bit. It's almost like you're either choking yourself or you're pressing on your lymph nodes a little bit. That will help you trigger that kind of choky feeling, but what happens is the tongue gets tense in the back, and that's gonna help you see if you're doing the right sound. So, oh. So notice the tongue here is in the same position, but now you're gonna have more tension in the back. Oh, oh, oh. When you press up here, what you should feel is the back of your tongue goes from flat to up with tension. So instead of call, oh. So the tongue's here, but the back of your tongue, that because the tongue muscle is really long, that there's going to be a lot of tension. You should feel it up here. Call. Now, if you're a Portuguese speaker, what you tend to do, you get the back sound really well, but don't forget the tongue part, the front part. Otherwise, it's going to sound like call. That's more of a W sound. So to a native speaker, it's going to sound like you're saying cow, the animal, instead of call, the phone. So it's two things, the tip of the tongue and the tension in the back. All, call, call, call. So that's why it can be challenging, because when you're looking at someone and you're trying to imitate their L's, technically it looks very similar from the front, but you don't see that difference in the back. And again, if you don't quite feel it or it feels too light, press up here, and that's just going to show you where that sound is, and it might trigger that muscle reflex. Okay, so let's keep practicing. Now, the dark L is a heavier sound. So I like to think, I don't know why it's not called light L and heavy L, whatever the case might be. You can also think of it that way because there is no test. So you can label these whatever works for you. So if you want to think of it as light L is a lighter sound, dark L is a heavier sound. That's how I like to think of it, because it reminds me that it's deeper. And it's pronounced with the back of the tongue, but it's also the front. So it's both. Right? Now, the other interesting thing about the dark L is it almost adds a syllable. And that's a very interesting thing you don't see it when you look at the phonetic breakdown of a word, but this kind of helps you trigger that back sound. Oh, and then the L. Oh. So it's both the and the oh. Oh. So I want you right now, put your hand down here, and we're going to make it slower. So it's going to sound longer than you normally would in a word. We'll go, oh, oh, oh. Now my lymph nodes hurt. So this is where it kind of adds a little bit. And sometimes just by understanding that that's an o sound, you'll see the impact. So in the next word here, if you look at the phonetic breakdown, it just looks like one clean, tiny syllable. So if you're using the light L, real, 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 but here, let's add the O, real. It's not, I like to think about it as like not two syllables, but it's like a syllable and a half. So it adds a little bit. Real, real. So that's why whenever you have those moments of like, what are they saying? Why is it when they say the word, it sounds different, but I don't understand how or why? Because you look at the word, you look at the phonetic description, and it doesn't make sense. And so this is the answer to that question. So there's a little extra sound. So real, real. So it's not oh, so don't over open your mouth, but that's the throat being activated and the back of the tongue. Real, real. So it's not real. So don't confuse. We're not pronouncing the A in real, where it's part of the L sound. Okay, so here to get to know some of the rules, it happens when the L is at the end of a word. So that's a nice rule of thumb. When the L and the L sound, because remember that in English, a lot of times we end words with a silent E. So if there's an L before it and it's a silent E, it's still going to fall under this rule. There are other instances, but let's take a look at some of the more popular examples. Now I pick these. It's almost summer, and so I feel like you're going to say the first word a lot. But secondly, these are two challenging sounds, even at the highest levels of fluency. So I want to make sure I give you some tips for this one. So the swimming, let's go swimming in the pool. Oh, pool. So you could go pool and then the oh. So see how it's not quite two syllables, but there is an extra moment. So pool, pool. So not ooh. We want to keep the lips relaxed. So if you're saying pool, pool, so that's how it would sound accented. If you're exaggerating the ooh sound and you're using a light L, pool, pool. People will probably understand you, but I will say that that's one of those moments where your English is going to sound heavily accented. So if that's what you're working on, this is a great way to refine that sound. So your lips are going to relax a little more. Poo, poo, and then poo, oh. Let's exaggerate two syllables and then we'll make it smoother. Poo, oh. Poo, oh. And now we're going to make it blend those two syllables. Pool, pool. And feel your throat. If you feel a vibration here, if it feels deeper here, then you're doing the dark L. If you don't, pull, pull, and it feels like more of the effort is in the front of the mouth, then that's going to be the light L. All right, so let's go. Can I use your swimming pool? I'm going to do some laps in the pool. Okay. Now this one, I find people usually pronounce both of these words the same. And I wanted to make sure that we go over it. Not only is it great practice for the dark L, but it also help you understand why your English might sound a little different. And this will help you with that. So we have pull and then pull. So you're going to open your mouth a little more because notice for the first one, the swimming pool, it's small. So it's not ooh, but pull. And then pull. Oh, oh. So you can see more of my mouth. So it's just going to open a little bit more. So the first one is ooh, and the other one is So you can say like pretend you're frustrated. But then keep your mouth there so you can see where the shape is. Someone just pushed you and you're like, pull, pull. So what we're doing here is we're being silly with it because when you visualize someone pushing you, it takes you out of the English mode that you're in and it gives you a moment of lightness and it helps you reset your mouth because it's not that you're making that sound, but it does leave your mouth in the position where then you're going to make this sound more accurately. So that's why I like to use those examples and I share that with you because that's something I want you to do. When you're stuck on a sound, do something that just shakes you out of the perfectionism, and it allows your mouth to move in different ways. Because really what's happening is there's a little bit of insecurity. You might feel self-conscious. You're not quite sure what's happening. And so there's too much tension in here. So you just have to shake it out. In fact, right now, just do that. Because right by now your tongue should feel a little bit tense. We've done a lot of it. Even mine is kind of tired. So we just want to shake it up.